Okay, friends, so we are going to be painting our Native American mask. You are going to be using two types of brushes, a small rounded and a small flat. Oops, this one had a little bit of paint left on them. And a small flat. Okay, so depending on what you're trying to do, the small rounded is usually good for your rounder shapes. Small flat obviously is better for your flat shapes. So we are not going to be covering the brown area because if you looked at the Native American mask, as we discussed before, they used things that were available to them. So usually what they did is they carved into wood, but they didn't paint all of the wood because they wanted to show that aspect of nature and keep it as it was. So the whole mask shouldn't be painted. Only the areas where your shapes are and maybe a couple areas on the brown paper should be painted. You're going to be using your ketchup bottles. And I want you to remember a dime size of paint is all you need for your palettes. This is what you'll put your paint on, okay? So I'm going to figure out what color I want to start with. Think about contrast. My lighter colors are going to stick out a little bit more against my darks, and my darks will stick out a little bit more against my lights. If I take, for instance, a dark purple, and I put it against regular purple, those two colors are very similar. Their contrast is not that high, okay? Now when I say the word contrast, you have to kind of think about the word compare and contrast. Contrast means two very different things. So if I put two very different colors next to each other, they're gonna pop. But if I do two colors that are similar to each other, they're gonna blend in too much. So I do think I'm going to use this purple, but I'm going to use it maybe on some of that pink area in my heart. So I'm going to just take this. And remember, sometimes you have to hit the bottle a little bit on your paper, on your placemat, and then get about a dime size. That's all you need, okay? You can always go back for more. So I'm going to use, because that heart's rounded, I'm going to use a rounded brush. And the thing about painting is the harder you push on your brush, the thicker your strokes are going to look. So if you're trying to get a line, it's going to look heavier the more you push on this. The lighter I push on it, the thinner my lines will be. So I'm going to give you an example right here. Maybe I'll do a pattern inside this circle. If I push really light, barely touching the paper, it's going to give me kind of a thinner line. However, if I take this and I add some pressure, and you can see those bristles move outwards, it's going to give me a thicker. Okay, so maybe I want to go around and do some thick and thin line patterns. I can pick this up from the sides because now I might want to go in and add some designs or detail on top of the lines that I just did. What do you think I need to do though before I add any more paint on top of the paint that I just had? Right, you want to let it dry because if I go in and try to add some lines on top of those lines I just did, they're gonna kind of blend into each other. So I would let it dry first. Acrylic dries usually in about 10 minutes, and then if you want to go in and do anything around these lines or on top of them after those have dried is the best time. So I'm not going to go into my shapes and just do different lines and patterns with the two different paintbrushes I have. Anywhere that I want to do purple, I think I'm going to apply that first and then switch to a new color when I'm ready for that. So again, you have to pick this up as you're working with it. Okay, so when it's time to change colors on your brush, you're just going to take your brush, move it around in the water. Remember, we don't tap our brushes in here. And then right over your water, using your fingers, you're going to squeeze it 1, 2, 3. If you notice a lot of paint on your finger, go ahead and do it again 1, 2, 3, and rinse it a second time. Okay, so now I'm going to go in and get another color, and I have a lot of, you can see how much purple I had left. So I almost did too much purple. So I'm going to go in with another color now onto the leftover shapes I have. So again, once certain areas are dry, you can go back on top and do more designs in them. Another great thing with acrylic, because it dries quick, there's an area I don't like right here, I really don't like how the lips came out. You could always go on top of it with a darker color once it's dry. Okay, so when you're ready to put it on the drying rack, you want to grab it from the edges, okay? Make sure you don't touch any of the paint. Be careful where you place it. Don't place it on top of somebody else's because you will smudge the paint on their project.